Hi guys, I'm Michelle from the Recipe Bandit, and today we're going to be making one of our favorite kinds of beef jerky. This is the one that started it all. This is the one that we've been making for over 10 years. We make lots of kinds of beef jerky, but this one is honestly the OG beef jerky that we started making. Doesn't have a lot of ingredients, isn't hard to make, and honestly, the flavors in this one are probably still my favorite after all of this time. If you've been here before, you'll know that we make our jerky in a dehydrator. So our dehydrator back here waiting. The meat is going to need time to marinate in the fridge, at least 24 hours. We prefer 48 to 72. But I just kind of wanted to have everything here to talk about before we get started. So let's first talk about our ingredients. Any beef jerky needs a lean cut of beef. We prefer London broil or top round roast. This is, you can see it's a lean cut of meat. It's not got a lot of fat on it. There's some here, we're going to trim that off. And this meat is partially frozen because it's so much easier to cut when it is partially frozen. So I've pulled it out. It's not all the way thawed, but it's not all the way frozen either. And we're going to get into that for just a second. You need between 1 and 3 pounds of beef strips cut for beef jerky. This started out as a 2.5 pound London broil. By the time we trim some off, it's going to be just the right amount. But the marinade, there's enough of it that if you want to make more, if you want to do 3 pounds of beef strips, you can. If you want to make less, that'll work too. So let's talk about what goes into our marinade. The marinade is really the star of the show for beef jerky. Everything depends on the marinade, and everything depends on the marinating time. If you don't leave this meat or these meat strips in the marinade for long enough to soak up these flavors, you're going to be disappointed. So you want bold flavors, and you want to give yourself enough time for these flavors to infuse into the meat, because when we go to dehydrate it, we dry off the outside as much as we can to save some time. Let's talk about what's going to go into this marinade. So we have Worcestershire sauce. We have 3/4 of a cup of Worcestershire sauce. This is salty, it's savory, it's got so many smoky flavors. It's got so many different flavors in it that it makes a great base. We have some soy sauce. We have some garlic powder, onion powder, some black pepper and chili powder. And then we have some hot sauce. We like Cholula, but you could use Tabasco. You can use whatever you want. But we have a little bit of hot sauce, just a little bit, just a couple of teaspoons. And then we have some seasonings, in the recipe, I refer to it as seasoning salt. This is whatever you want. This happens to be steak seasoning. You don't need a lot of it, but that little extra bit with the kosher salt and the pepper and the flavors, in addition to all of the other things you're putting in, it really does make a difference. So that seasoning salt is something that you should throw in. All right, we like to make our marinade either in a shallow container or in a zip top bag. A zip top bag makes it easier to leave it in the refrigerator and go through and just kind of push the meat around once in a while, or flip the bag over to ensure that all of your meat is getting seasoned with the marinade. To make the marinade, all we're going to do is take these 8 ingredients and dump them in this bag. In goes the Worcestershire, in goes the soy sauce, garlic powder, onion powder, seasoning salt, steak seasoning, black pepper, chili powder, and finally, our Cholula hot sauce. Any kind of hot sauce you want. It just helps with that little bit of a kick, pulls all the things together. All right, that's it. Not a hard thing. I just shake it up in this bag so that everything gets combined. And then as I cut the meat into the strips, the meat will go right into the marinade, and then the marinade will go into the fridge. Now let's talk about this meat for a second. So You want your jerky strips not to be any thicker than 1/4 of an inch. If they're thicker, it takes them too long to dehydrate, and you're not going to have the right consistency. You can have the butcher do this for you if you're nice to them, but it's not a hard thing to do. You just want to cut your beef into strips so that when it goes into the marinade, it's able to soak up those flavors, and when it goes into the dehydrator, it's able to dehydrate appropriately. So I said there's some gristle on here, there's some fat on here. We are going to take that off, but we'll take it off afterwards when we look at our strips. You want to try to go across the grain if you can. So those are really the two rules: across the grain and 1/4 inch or less. You want a sharp knife. Sharpen your knife because it'll make it so much nicer. And you also want to have this roast or the London broil or whatever you want to call it, top round, you want to have the meat partially frozen. It'll make all the difference in the world. So I'm just going to literally cut into these little strips. All right, so one thing that I was thinking about as I was cutting all of this meat into these strips that I really think is important to share with you guys is that when it comes to jerky, size matters. If you take strips that are this big and you put them in the dehydrator, they are going to take twice as long to dehydrate as they would if you cut them in half and put in strips this big. So when you hear people talking about how they made jerky and they dehydrated it for 15 hours, they're probably big strips like this. We are going to cut all of our jerky into strips like this and put them immediately into the marinade. It's going to help them flavor faster, it's going to help them dehydrate faster, and it's going to make us happy people with jerky that's ready long before everyone else's. And as I am cutting them in half, now they're these nice little strips, I'm tossing them right into the marinade. This is where they're going to live for the next 2 or 3 days while all of those marinade flavors impart themselves and absorb right into this meat. All of that meat has been cut into 1/4 inch or less strips against the grain. All of that meat has been cut in half to facilitate quicker dehydration because we like it that way. And now all of our meat is in the marinade. So we are going to, this is leftover gristly pieces for these dogs that are waiting on the floor. So I'm just going to wash my hands and then I'll show you what we're going to do with the marinade. All of our marinade now in the bottom. All of our meat strips are in the marinade there. And what we want to do is we're going to kind of push them all down, get most of the air out of the zip top bag here. And we're going to seal the bag. Now there's not a lot of air in here. So now we are just going to quickly massage the meat so that that marinade can get in between all of these slices. So this is going to go into the refrigerator, going to stay in the refrigerator. Every so often we will flip it over. We will move the meat around until we are ready to come back and get it in the dehydrator. So our jerky has been in the refrigerator for a couple of days now. The jerky itself, even through the bag, it smells great. So I am super excited that we get to go ahead and get this in the dehydrator. This is the most tedious process, is being patient and waiting for the dehydrator to do its thing. But once you have spent all of the time and love imparting the marinade into this meat, it is so satisfying when it's done, not even gonna lie. All right, so let's go ahead and get this going. We have our bag of meat strips and our marinade that we had in the refrigerator for the last couple of days. We are going to take some paper towels and we're going to double them up and we're going to lay them on the counter. It's the best way that we have found to get the moisture off of the meat. We are going to start pulling out these strips, just like this, and laying them down on the paper towels. You can do this just with your hands if you like. Just kind of depends on how messy you're willing to get. So I'm going to keep pulling these out and putting them on the paper towel. I will get more paper towels if I need to, but I have a double layer of paper towels flat out on my counter, and this is where I am putting all of these little beef strips for right now. Now, once you've laid out all of the beef strips onto your double layer of paper towels, you're going to want to get a few more paper towels. I usually do another double layer and fold them over again. And then I just push down on the top and I try to absorb all of the moisture that doesn't need to be on there. The idea is that when we put it in the dehydrator, it's just a little less work that dehydrator has to do, and it makes the process a little faster. You're not trying to dry them completely. You're just trying to get them so that they are not wet. You'll discard the remainder of your marinade. We're just going to throw that right into the garbage. We don't need to keep it. And you're going to get a dehydrator tray. This one I already started. These guys I've already done a couple. But you are going to take your beef strips and lay them out on a dehydrator tray, and you're going to just leave some space for airflow between them. We're going to take as many trays as it takes. I have, over the years, purchased extra trays. But if you don't have extra trays, say you only have 3 and you have more jerky than that, split it up. Split it up and do it in 2 batches. The less trays, the quicker it goes. The way that these dehydrators work, it's just warm air that's getting pushed out in a circular pattern. It comes down from the fan, down through the middle, recirculates back up, and it just continues this. So here's some examples of how these trays look when we're making our beef jerky. We have spaces between them, and that allows that airflow to go through. Now, once all of your jerky has been put on the trays, then you just put all of the trays onto the dehydrator. We use this little inexpensive dehydrator. This one uses air, like I said, and has a temperature that ranges from 95 degrees Fahrenheit to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. We dehydrate meat at 160 degrees Fahrenheit, or as warm as it will go. We turn it to this, we put the top on, we plug it in, and then we're going to start checking. We'll probably start checking in about an hour because some of our beef strips are small, and we want to be able to really have control over how much dehydrating we do. We're going to move the trays around. I'll show you how we're going to do that, but we're going to let it go for a little bit. So I got distracted and it's been about an hour and a half. So let's take a look and see how we're doing with our jerky. All right. So you can see, it's not sticking to the rack anymore. Anyway, you can see that it is shrinking, right? It's shrinking up. It's doing really well. Some pieces are more pliable than others. So what you're looking for with your dehydrator is that they will be a little bit squishy, but not tacky in any way. They're still pliable, but they feel dried. That's what you're looking for. And when you have these pieces, because some are bigger than others, so when you have pieces that have reached this point where when you feel them, you feel that they are not wet anymore. They're dried on the outsides. They're still pliable, but they definitely don't feel like they did when you put them in. They can come out. We're going to go through all of these and we're going to kind of change the trays. And there are going to be some that need more time. You're going to know this. You'll be able to tell just by feeling. And the best part is that now it's been long enough, you can taste them. And they're yummy. Take them and put them on the plate. The majority of your jerky will probably be done by this point because, while we're not professional butchers, we do try to keep them about the same thickness and try to make them a smaller size so they process better. Now, here's one that you can tell it was a little thicker. I'm just going to give this one a little more time. It just feels like it needs a little more time. And as you make jerky, you'll just get to know what this feels like. Anything that needs more time, we'll check it in a half an hour and maybe we'll pull it out then. But we're making a plate of the stuff that's already done and we turn it back on, we won't have as many trays. As we're going through these, we are moving from one tray to another, putting anything questionable back on the trays so that they can have a little more time. You don't want it to be rock hard. It's really actually important that it is not rock hard. It tastes so much better if there's still a little give. So this tray, empty. So we'll just move on to the next. All right, so we have gone from 6 trays of jerky down to 2. 2 that we feel like we need a little bit more time on. And maybe we do, maybe we don't, but we feel like we do, so we're doing it. So I'm just going to, like the first time, spread them so that there's airflow between them. Put the racks back on, put top back on, and now we're going to give it another half an hour and we'll come back and check it again. And this is how much we already have made. Once this cools, we will go ahead and put it in a zip top bag. I don't want to put it in there while it's still warm. I want to give it a minute to cool. And then, of course, it gives me more opportunities to snack on it and try it and make sure that it's perfect. And so far, it's delicious. All right, let's see. Okay, our pieces that were not quite all the way done feel like they're all the way done now. How long it takes to make jerky is dependent on a lot of things. The temperature of your house, the thickness of the meat, the size of the pieces, the dehydrator that you're using. There are so many different factors, and it's just something that you'll get to know as you do it. It gets easier as you make it, and the more you experiment with flavors, we experiment with flavors all the time, the more fun you're going to have with a dehydrator. That's a lot of beef jerky, really. A lot of beef jerky that we made on our own. There's no preservatives in here. It's just delicious. It's all flavor. On the website, on therecipebandit.com, you can get this recipe for our original OG Worcestershire beef jerky. However, we've got Bloody Mary beef jerky and we've got horseradish beef jerky. We've got all sorts of different kinds of flavors. And we have just created them over time by playing with stuff that we have. I want you guys to do the same. Don't be afraid of a dehydrator and don't think that they're out, like that they're so expensive now you can't afford them. They have come down so much. And this is an affordable thing that you can do. It's a delicious thing you can do, and it's not anything that you would ever regret learning. So if you like what we're doing here, please come back and see us again. Please like and subscribe. Please click that little notification button at the bottom so you know when we put out new videos. They're not always jerky videos, but there's a couple of them already, and I'm sure there will be more. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you will come back and visit us again soon, and I hope you try this jerky. You won't regret it. Night, guys.